He had been trapped on the 35th floor for 28 days, no food, no water and no electricity, while his girlfriend was about to marry someone else. The man was on the verge of losing his mind. He kicked one of the railings on the 35th floor, breaking it with a single strike. Then he desperately pulled apart the bars to create an opening. With no hesitation, he squeezed through the gap, standing above hundreds of meters of open air. He began to regret his decision as the realization sank in. But the thought of his girlfriend about to become another man's bride steeled his resolve. The man stepped onto the railing of the 35th floor. He couldn't afford any mistakes. Every time, he would only move his foot forward after securing his grip with both hands. The hardest part, however, was navigating the smooth stone wall between floors. It offered no footholds whatsoever. Relying solely on his arm strength, he had to grope his way downward. After half an hour of grueling effort, the man miraculously managed to reach the 31st floor. After some time, he seemed to grow more confident, no longer satisfied with moving one step at a time. He began attempting 2 steps in one go. But then, the unthinkable happened. When he extended his foot, he realized this floor had no railing at all. Panicked, he quickly pulled his foot back, summoning every ounce of strength he had. Going back up was no longer an option. His only chance of survival was to risk everything. Having thought it through, he immediately pulled his belt from his waist. Gripping onto the railing, he slowly crouched down. With no safety equipment, he began his high-altitude climb. The man tied his belt around the railing, fastened it tightly with a buckle, and then clung to the belt for dear life. As he lowered himself bit by bit, before long, he reached the bottom. Finally, gritting his teeth, he let go of the rock wall with his hands, leaving his body suspended in midair. Summoning all his strength, he swung himself back and forth, and just as he released the belt, he managed to find a foothold. But before he could celebrate, a new problem emerged. This floor had no balcony. To get inside, he would have to carefully shimmy along the railing to find an entry point. The man inched forward cautiously, pressing both hands tightly against the wall. When he reached the corner, he suddenly slipped and almost lost his footing. Regaining his balance, he refocused and paced himself. Step by step, he carefully crossed the gap. Panting heavily, he realized he was close to success. This was no time to let his guard down. He slowly extended his right foot, then followed with his left. Before long, he finally felt the solid ground beneath him. Victory was within reach. He reached out to open the glass door, but no matter how hard he tried, the door wouldn't budge an inch. If finesse wouldn't work, he decided to use force instead. Bracing himself against the wall, he risked being thrown off as he kicked the door with all his might. After a relentless effort, the door finally gave way and swung open. Dragging his tired body, he reached the entrance. He had made it. As he walked downstairs, warm sunlight poured over his face. In that moment, all he wanted was to embrace the messy yet precious life he had once taken for granted. As for the girlfriend who had abandoned him, she was free to marry whoever she wanted.